Okay, now we're going to start actually manipulating some data. I've put some actual data in here, it makes it a lot easier. I'm not making any political statements about people's relative intelligence. I try to put the numbers in as randomly as I possibly could. All right, but you may notice these are the questions. All right, question 4, question 5, question 6. Down here, this is the total number of possible points. Now, first thing we need to do is we want to get the total points for the entire test. All right, so what I'm going to do is I need to sum all of these points, okay, across. First, we're going to sum the first row, which is the total number of possible points. Now, you guys should remember how to do this. It's the sigma, which is up here in the corner. All right, and I'm going to click on that, and you may notice that the little ants start running, marching across the screen. If, say, for instance, it grabs something you don't want or doesn't get anything, you can simply click in this row and drag across where it needs to be. All right, it doesn't always work the way it's supposed to. Enter. Now, once again, I'm in the next row down. I could hit the sum key again and do it in like that, and I would be able to add everything up all the way down, but that's not what I want to do. I'm lazy. I'm going to do a relative drag fill. Okay, so if you notice up here it says a sum of B2 to B12. I'm going to click on this. I'm going to click on this cell here. You notice there's a white arrow. I'm going to drag into the corner. It turns into a black arrow. That means it's ready to do a drag fill. And when I pull this all the way down to Mitt Romney, you'll notice that it adds up all of the terms. Okay, so for instance, Tom Adams got a 34 out of a possible 42 points. You notice up here it's the sum of B3 to I3. This one here is the sum of B4 to I4, column B4 to I4, and it goes all the way down like that, and we got the various numbers. All right, now the simplest way of doing this, okay, is to do to calculate a percentage. Okay, so I can go back, and one of the things I can do is I say, okay, I want to do a percentage now. Now, as we all know, percentages are a formula, so I'm going to click on this cell here, and actually, I should actually put the word percent as a title. And I want to get what is the kid's actual grade for this exam. Now, I strongly suspect that you guys are probably going to have a lot more questions, and you may divide your questions up into parts. You notice that Stacy did that. I'm going to go over here. You notice it's part A, B, and C. She broke hers up into parts. I think that's a useful thing to do. So you guys are probably going to have a lot more columns of questions. All right, but at the end, you're going to have this. Now, the percent, okay, equals whatever's in this column divided by the total number of points. The divide is done by a backslash, and in this case the total number of points is actually 42. And okay, that comes up with 1. Now, I remember we always did is over us of and then times 100. Well, there's a very actually simple way of doing that. I want everything that's in this row, and I'm going to click and highlight the entire row, and I'm going to right click, and I'm going to go Format Cells, and under number, wait a minute, where is it? Percentage, there we go. The choice is percentage under category, and it's going to have 2 decimal places. All right, and actually, I don't really want, well, yeah, we'll keep the decimal places. All right, so anything that goes into that formula is going to be signed as a percent. Now, I could again go equals 34 backslash 42, boom, all the way down. All right, and that does work. Or I could just take this column and drag it down. Now, there is a possible mistake here. I'm not sure what's going to happen. Let's see what happens. Nope. See what, if you take a look, yeah, okay, it worked perfectly. All right, J3 divided by 42, J4 divided by 42. My concern was it was going to start adding 1 to every one of these numbers, but it didn't. So the numerator and the denominator, okay, the guy on the bottom is always the same. All right, and you know, his kids did pretty well, and poor Charlie Crowley, who is one of my favorite politicians, got a very poor score. All right, again, this is not a comment on the politicians. All right, so this actually, one nice thing about this, I suspect you guys are going to go along and do your own calculations, but this will actually calculate the kid's percent grade. All right, and there's all sorts of other cool and funky things you can do. But one of the other, and this is something that was very, very useful that Stacy did, and I want to go back to the sheet. You notice down here at the bottom she did 2 things. Number 1, there's the average, and number 3 is the mode. All right, now For those of you who are non-mathematically inclined, you don't need to put in the average in the mode. I like doing it, so I'm going to do it. But the average is probably the grade you're looking for. The average is just you take them all up and divide by the number of individuals, and it'll tell you what the average score is. Okay, versus the mode, which I believe tells you what the most common score is. All right, so in other words, if the most common score was like a 10 out of 10, but or was a 9 out of 10, but a couple of kids got 0, is the most common score would be that. All right. So let's go back to my sheet, and I want to use this for all my classes, and 13 happens to be a fairly small class. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to I can actually put the information down here if I want, or if I want to add more rows, I can always add more rows later. So down here, I'm going to put average, and the next one is going to be mode. Actually, both of those things are functions. It's a very simple way of putting in a function. Now, you guys could actually probably do this. You would be the sum of these guys divided by the number, blah, 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 blah. But it's actually easier to just go insert, function, and it gives you a list of all the possible functions that are there. And what do you know? Average is one of the ones. All you have to do is click on it, and it says, okay, what series do you want? And I'm just going to say I want everything, not including the total number. You notice I get my marching ants, and I drag it all the way down, and I hit enter, and it gives me the average grade, which in this case is a 4. Okay, and I'm going to drag this across, all the way across like this, and what it does is it gives me, wow, this one here. Okay, I think what I need to do is I'm going to need to format the cell so I don't get quite so many spaces. I'm going to click that row. I'm going to say under numbers, I want 0 decimal places, and say OK. And then boom, it makes it a nice pretty number. So the actual total number of points, the average total number of points is 33. And again, I need to format this guy as a percent. I'm going to go right click to the whole column, format cells as a percentage, and I'm actually going to go with 0 decimal places. Boom. And the average grade was 78%. All right. Now I can also do the mode here, and I'm going to click here, and I'm going to insert function, and I'm going to look for the word mode. I'm going to type in a brief description, so I'm going to say mode. Again, this is something that the math geeks probably like to do. I'm not sure I would know how to use that information. All right. But if you want to do that, this will give you the most common grade. In other words, if everybody got 5 out of, the majority of people got like 3 out of 5, it might be interesting to go and look and see what points they actually lost. They maybe actually lost all the same, got the same part of the question wrong. So I'm going to click on mode. And the question is, okay, so what do I want the mode to be? And again, what it's doing, it's grabbing the closest number, which is actually the number right above it. I actually don't want that number. I want from Tom Adams down to Mitt Romney, and I'm going to hit enter, and that tells me what the most common grade is, which in this case happened to be 5. And I'm going to drag that across, and actually I'm only going to drag it up to question number 8 because that's where the only place it makes sense. All right, so that's a quick way of doing this. All right, so using this, you can set up a very, very simple spreadsheet that will give you the information you want. All right. Now, suppose your spreadsheet, okay, well, so that's enough for this lesson. I'm going to move on. I'm going to talk about how we can do this to make it a little bit more interesting, a little bit more useful for everybody.